This week, we're diving back into Season 0, Chapter 9, Part 2, A Sky Black with Smoke, where Cyrus and Bram continue to flee the aftermath of the attack in Sunsetton and eventually face their greatest danger yet. I've worked with my audio artist, Zoran, to infuse this chapter with more magic, more wonder, and more incredible artistry than the original versions. And along the way, we're taking a look back at the Seventh Valkyrie journey as we make our way towards Season 3. Welcome to the Seventh Valkyrie Listen-Along. Let's rock and roll. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Valkyrie Listen-Along. I'm your host, Colin Sharp, creator and current voice of the Seventh Valkyrie. If you're a new listener coming through the series for the first time, well, welcome. And if you are a grizzled hero of Edera, it's great to have you back. Spoiler warning, as always, before we get into the episode, we are getting towards the end of the season and starting to get deep into the series. So I'll remind you every episode, but be warned, if you haven't listened to the chapter that this is about, go back and listen through. To that point, at least. Anyway, let's start inside the episode and give you the play-by-play. This chapter picks up maybe in half an hour or more since Cyrus and Bram left Sunsetton. But despite their head start and their multiple horses, they're moving slowly because they're carrying a whole-ass wagon. And as they continue to flee across the rolling hills, their pursuers who are on horseback pick up their trail. And soon it is a all-out race across the rolling hills beyond Sunsetton, with Bram making a daring play to try to survive, running and fleeing straight into the primal forest that he's been warning Cyrus about. But before they can even make it, the soldiers of Sunsetton catch them, nailing Bram with arrows, forcing Cyrus to step up, and then eventually taking out Telly the horse and sending Cyrus and Bram flying from the wagon. Cyrus is dazed as he tries to make it to Bram, but despite Bram's wishes and requests for Cyrus to run, they are both caught in a hail of arrows, and Cyrus is left paralyzed by an arrow in his spine and suddenly at the mercy of Rand and his men. And so they do exactly what you would expect. They torture Cyrus for fun, they tease him, they eventually kill Bram, and eventually they leave Cyrus with no hope but to simply beg and pray for mercy. But no hero arrives. It's not that kind of story. Instead, his call is answered by a dark watcher out in the night. The same one from the very beginning of the season, the same one from The Ghost in the Flames, and now he reveals another aspect of his terrifying power. The moon fades, the soldiers are wrapped in smoke, and after taking out Rand's men one by one, the dark stranger emerges and then systematically dismembers and incinerates Rand. Cyrus has no idea how to take this, and again, he doesn't really have much time to process because his suffering is not finished yet. With brutal disdain, the fire of the world's ending, which the Dark Stranger calls itself, unleashes a torrent of flame to incinerate Cyrus, and we're not really sure what happens after that, at least until we get to a future chapter. Now let's take a step outside the episode. Just like we had a landmark moment for Val in the previous full chapter, this chapter we see the foundation of pretty much everything that's to come for Cyrus. He is pursued by Edera, his steadfast ally and support. Bram is injured and eventually killed. And while Cyrus is paralyzed, facing death in the dirt outside Sunsetton, he is saved for the second time. And this arrival of the fire of the world's ending, the build-up through the chase across the hills, into the desperation for Bram's safety, to the utter helplessness, it all feeds into this moment where the fire of the world's ending arrives, and that tension is really well underscored by Zoran's audio artistry. That's actually also an area that I had to be able to play with in terms of listener perception. I'll get into a little bit further detail about that. So, a lot of time you can build tension in a movie or an audio drama like this, and anticipation as well, with music. but it's also easy to accidentally sort of ruin a surprise. So, for example, if you play anticipation music right as someone is in their darkest hour, it builds up to the reveal that someone's coming to save them. But it can also, if you don't do it right, or you don't find the right balance, it can undercut the feeling of genuine distress, and it makes the audience go, oh, okay, well, yeah, they're in trouble, but we know someone's coming. And that's something that I try to play with a lot in this series with my voice, with the audio, not revealing twists, but trying to have them still have an impact and try to kind of play with your perception. There are tropes in this in the storytelling, obviously, but I want, and good stories have build up and payoff, so like they can't be totally just random and chaotic, but I like getting you guys to sometimes experience the surprises just as the characters experience them. Like, I'll have moments of like, oh, like something is in the middle of a train of thought, something else happens. And so I think for this, which is a big reveal and a big culmination, I thought the balance that we struck was pretty good, and I appreciate having Zoran a million times. I'll say that. Another last note is on the effects and the sound effects, which are so vital for bringing magical and fantastical elements into the world. Like the flames, the melting blade, the disappearances, all of the fire. When I was writing these notes, I was still buzzing off of the sounds of the black sphere in Sunsetton, so I want to shout that out too. But it's just it helps you situate yourself in this imaginary world. Anyway, and I'm glad that you guys get to do so, because that brings us to the end of this episode of the Listen Along. Stay tuned for the reimaginings that are dropping Wednesday, and the Listen Along that'll be dropping next Friday. If you are itching to get ahead, you are not alone, and you can do that one of two ways. If you're listening as a public listener, you can listen to them as they were released right now, today, for free. Or, if you'd like to experience the full magic of the series ahead of everybody else, you can join us on Patreon as a hero of Edera and get exclusive access to Season 0 and Season 1's reimaginings weeks before they hit the public. So, the choice is yours. We're just glad to have you along for the ride as we journey towards Season 3, and I'll see you guys next week.